Sweet. This is exciting. That weird awkward silent moment before everybody logs on. Okay. Okay, so we're broadcasting live on Zoom. People are gonna be jumping on here. We're broadcasting live on Facebook. Welcome to everybody at Coldwell Banker. Welcome to everybody at Point Mortgage. Today's a special day. We're here with a legend in the mortgage business. It's quite the honor. Kind of nervous, to be honest with you guys. Barry Habib is with us. Yeah, Scott, you got to introduce him. I can't do it. Put you on the spot.
All right. Thank you, Peter. And thank you, Barry. We have Barry Habib joining us today. Barry is the president and CEO of MBS Highway, and we're very fortunate and honored to have him. So thank you, Barry. And Barry gives tremendous insight on the mortgage markets, where interest rates are headed, impact on housing, really good, forecasting. Barry is on, you've probably seen him on television before, on CSNBC. He works with, Washington, D.C. a lot, with economists. So his insight we use daily. So again, we're extremely honored and privileged to have him here. So Barry, again, welcome. And thanks for joining us today.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I wish you would have mentioned the Zillow Awards that I received recently, the two crystal balls, 2 out of the last 3 years being the most accurate real estate forecaster in the United States, out of the top 150 of the top economists in the country. And I only bring that up because I think it's very important for your viewers to know that the insights and the metrics that we use do actually work very well.
Excellent. Thank you. Well, we'll get right to it and just kind of start overall, Barry, with, there's been a lot of, obviously over the last couple months, everything seems to be changing by the day in the mortgage markets. So where are we at kind of today in terms of the mortgage markets? I know the FHFA has come out with announcements recently, but where are we at today?
Well, there's been a lot that's gone on. One of the things that had transpired, which is kind of like the Cuban Missile Crisis moment for the mortgage and housing industry, was what transpired with margin calls, and that was back in March. And really the lending industry was on the brink of disaster, and that would have been terrible for housing as well. So the Fed was trying to help, but they didn't realize how the plumbing worked with rate locks, and they were buying too many mortgage-backed securities, which caused mortgage bond prices to go up too quickly. And in order for lenders to lock transactions, they have to do something called hedging, which means they'll promise you your rate, but if rates go up, meaning the pricing gets worse, then that lender has to pay that freight on that. So the way that they offset the cost is they take mortgage-backed securities and they short them, meaning that if mortgage pricing gets worse, they'll make money on that, and it's enough to offset the difference in the cost to preserve your rate lock, and it's great. And if pricing gets better, well, that's good because within pipeline, you're making more money, but by the same token on your hedging account, you're losing money. So they still offset, except that things were going so rapidly and pricing got better so quickly that broker dealers were saying, hey, you're too upside down in your margin account and we need money and we need it now. Lenders were issuing checks for 50, 70, $80 million every few days. So lenders who were in good financial position were not going to be able to make it for another week. So I'm very proud of what we had done, and we got in front of the Fed and we explained to the Fed that what they were doing was well-intended, but had some unintended negative consequences that were very, very scary. And I worked with Steve Leisman from CNBC till 11 o'clock that Sunday night, and we broke the story that night and then the next day. And I had a few friends with, at the Dallas Fed and others that allowed me to get in there and explain what was going on. And since then, boy, it's been great. Now, as soon as we came out of that fire, or out of the frying pan there, we jumped into the fire of forbearances. But the good news on forbearances, they're cresting right now. And it is possible. I spoke to the head of the FHFA via text over the last weekend. He said there's a good chance, 50-50 chance at least, that new forbearances stop. But we're also seeing about 40% of people in forbearance that are paying their mortgage. So, we've had some scary moments there. but we have been able to, I think, weather the storm. So it's really good on the mortgage side. Now, the housing side, I've got a lot of stuff for us to talk about, but I am very optimistic about housing. We've got to be a little bit careful here because the numbers have been good coming out. I think there was some pent-up demand. So I feel that housing will be very strong, but it might be a little bumpy because of elevated levels of unemployment.
Yeah, and I think obviously we have a lot of participants on this call: loan officers, real estate agents. Where do you see housing from here, and the recovery? How long will this recovery take, and where do you see housing in the short term and into 2021 and 22?
Well, let's take the first couple of things. So how long will the recovery take? It will take a while. And even if you assume a 90% recovery, which I think anybody would say is very optimistic right now, the 10% differential is the difference between companies being in business or not. So I don't think that this is going to be an easy one for us. Remember, we're looking at a starting point of a 3.5% unemployment rate. It's about 5 million people unemployed based upon the labor force that we have. Right now, there's 5 million people who are just getting PPP through their company, that's going to fall off at the end of August. And if those companies don't come back to some degree by then, the entire level of where unemployment rate, that's just going to be added to the unemployment rate that we have right now. So we're looking at an unemployment rate that's, that according to the last number from the BLS was 14.7%, but they lag because they kind of take a number from the middle of the month. The unemployment rate actually ticked up. We do a live number that people utilize, and the live number had gotten up as far as 22% for us. But right now, we're looking at 14.8% rate of unemployment. So it's come back a lot as people have gone back to work to some degree. We know that when we see the numbers come out this coming Friday, a week from today, from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the BLS, it'll show about a 19 or 20% rate of unemployment, but that number lags. I'm telling you in real time, it's actually better than that. And it's encouraging that we're starting to see people go back to work. Now, it's going to be a long way before we get back down to 3.5%. I don't know if we'll get there anytime soon. My hope is that sometime in 2021, we get to a level around 6 or 7%, maybe 8% unemployment, manageable, but certainly not where we were. Now, one other thing is disproportionately people on the lower end of the scale of income have lost jobs to a greater extent. And, of course, we're sympathetic and we want all those people to do well. But from a housing standpoint, those are more renters than they are homeowners. So housing is resilient. We'll talk about inventory and all that stuff because you asked me long-term beyond 2021. I can go over some charts to show you exactly where we are if you'd like, whenever you're ready.
Sure, we can do that now.
That'd be awesome.
Okay.
All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to first start off just by sharing my screen here, and I am going to pull this up, and let's go into screen share, and here we go. Okay, so again, what I did want to do is I wanted to show you just very quickly. Wanted to show you first something here. This is a statistic from CNBC. So they looked at the effect of COVID-19 and they said that when you look at businesses that have lost more than 75% of their business, almost 57% of small businesses. Now, small businesses, 500 employees or less. And as you can see, the vast majority of businesses, 94% of businesses are experiencing some degree of a decrease in volume, and some of them rather significantly. Okay, I mean, you could see that when you take a look at the numbers that we have here, it's 84% of businesses are off at least 25%. That's a very big difference. Only 4.5% of businesses are normal, and just 1.5% are doing better. Just 1.5%. So the first thing I think we need to have is just a little bit of perspective here, because thank your lucky stars that you're in either the mortgage or real estate industry, because we are in a very different environment than most of the country. And while we're going to have things that come up that might cause a little heartburn, maybe this program has been eliminated, maybe the credit standards have gotten a little bit tighter, whatever it is, there are real people out there, lots of them, that have a different kind of heartburn, that have a different kind of concern, and that's, can I put food on the table? So, we have to first start with perspective, I believe, because where we sit is in a very fortunate place to be in the industry that we're in. Now, as we take a look at interest rates first, the Fed funds rate is very different than mortgage rates. They're different having a rate for a 1 day, which is the Fed funds rate, than a mortgage rate. And what I want to show here is that mortgage rates and the Fed funds rate don't always respond the same way. So when the Fed cuts to zero, doesn't mean mortgage rates are going to zero. You can see here the Fed hikes rates dramatically, mortgage rates go down. Again, hikes rates dramatically, mortgage rates go down. Fed comes down in rate, but mortgage rates go up. And you see that again over and over and over again. You know, Fed comes way down, mortgage rates go up. So over time, they tend to gravitate in similar direction, but certainly not in lockstep. You can see now the Fed went to zero. Mortgage rates are still very, very attractive, but don't expect zero anytime soon. However, that said, a lot of downward pressure on mortgage rates, lots of downward pressure because people are getting older and they're going to be forced now to transfer out of stocks into more bonds. That will put downward pressure. The amount of debt that we have, people think, oh, debt's going to cause rates to go higher. It's the opposite. We've learned that everywhere in time, everywhere in the world. The more government debt you have, the more of a drag it is on the economy because you have to service that debt. Let's remember, we're not printing money. I know it's a term that's used, but it's very different. This is not 1920s Germany or Zimbabwe or Chiang Kai-shek China or Hungary or Argentina. This is not that. We are having a debt that corresponds to it that has to be serviced. And because of that, we will see a drag on the economy, and that will hold rates or push rates even lower than where they are right now. Now, we mentioned forbearance. You can see they're cresting. They start off real high. 40% of people paying their mortgage on forbearance. That's a good thing. So we know that the forbearance situation is going to be more manageable as we go forward. Now, I wanted to bring this up because a year ago today, I made this crazy prediction. I did it on TV. I did it all over, and you could pull it up. It was exactly a year ago today. And with the 10-year Treasury at 2.75, I said that the 10-year Treasury was going to 1%. And everybody thought I was, taking some kind of, happy potion to kind of come up with a crazy forecast like that. But sure enough, it did go down to 1%. And that happened before COVID. It happened when people still thought that Corona was a beer. And the reason I bring this up is because, once it hit 1%, of course, then everybody wanted to know, okay, where do we go next? Where do we go next? Where do we go next? And then so they brought me on all over TV to talk about it. And on TV, I started to talk about 0.5% on the 10-year Treasury. And again, people thought I was crazy. People wanted to debate me. But yeah, not only did it go to 0.5%, it went to 0.31%. And I bring this up to you because I do think that interest rates are going to decrease further. I know that people don't believe it, but they will drop even further than there. In fact, they should be around 2 3/4 on a 30-year fixed, 2 5/8. But we have premiums for a higher elevated unemployment rate, which adds risk. We have a premium for forbearances, and we have a premium for capacity. So we're seeing rates in the low threes. Yes, that's great, but they really should be lower. They will be lower as employment starts to come back. We will start to see that effect of lower rates. So we're in a really unique position. It's never been like this in history, where you have A, a hot housing market, B, low rates, not just low rates, lowest in history, and C, people have equity in their homes. I'm going to talk about the effect of that and why that is so important for people watching this. So we're in a good position going forward. Now, if you're in the mortgage business, man, you're busy right now. People are having record months. So I want to talk about the future. The future is very bright because if you take a look at where the mortgage industry is right now, you can see that we're expected to do $1.3 trillion in refinances and purchases because of COVID are going to be down to $1.1 trillion. So about $2.5 trillion altogether. And man, we are busy. Man, that is a crazy, crazy environment. But the thing of it is that you ain't seen nothing yet. Why? Because if you were to take a look, and this is just statistics for people that are in good standing on their mortgage, which they should be, with at least 20% equity in their home, but you could do a refinance for somebody with less than 20% equity and still help them out a lot. In fact, they may need it more. 720 FICO score or higher. Now you could do FICO score 700. You could do FICO score 680. I mean, there's so many people out there that can benefit that. So we're going with very, very tight guidelines here, and that could save at least 0.75%. Now, I created and brought the no closing cost mortgage to the mortgage industry in 1990, went all over CNBC for years talking about it, and it became very widespread. But you can do loans and save people less than 0.75% and still have it make sense to refinance. So these are very conservative numbers. But with these very conservative numbers, we know that there's 19 to 20 million people who could refinance right now, and benefit. What does that mean? That means if you took the refinance market, it's $4.8 trillion. Right now, we can't handle 1.3 trillion. How are we going to do 4.8 trillion? So the market is really optimistic. It's a very bright future. But it's not just there, it's also in housing. Now, people, when you're going to do a refinance, let's just make sure you do the refinance correctly, okay? What do we do to make sure that refinance is done correctly? Well, let's take a look at how someone were to talk about a refinance. So if you were going to do a refinance and save somebody $230 a month and the closing costs were $2,300, I'll ask the people on the call just to think about this internally. When would you think the break even would be? So $2,300 in closing costs, saving $230 a month. I bet you most people say 10 months. Almost everybody will say 10 months, but that's wrong. Because, and by the way, that's the way it's taught in the textbooks, but math is a funny thing. You really have to know math to get it right. And when you use a cost of closing costs and you divide it by a payment, which is not all costs, there's only one component of your payment that's cost, and that's interest. The principal portion is your own money. So when you look at it more closely, you say, okay, I see the difference of $230 between the existing loan payment and the new payment on the refinance. But when you look at the interest breakdown, the interest savings is greater than the $230. So where's that extra $34 going? It's going towards principal. It's your own money. So that's why it's not considered a cost. So when you figure it out, it's really about an 8.5-month break even, not 10 months to break even. So you can really help people understand the benefits and the advantages. And also you can really utilize your knowledge and expertise in order to help people out. I mean, think about it. If you were to use that wrong logic, how would you be able to calculate a 15-year? You say, okay, you got $2,300 in closing costs, but it cost you $709 a month more. So what are you going to say? You never break even? No, you look at the interest difference, okay? On a 15-year, you're saving $502 a month difference in interest. So that really means about a 4.5-month break even on a 15-year, because you take a look at the $502 a month savings plus the $700 you're paying, you're putting an extra $1,200 a month towards principal. That's why you pay it off in 15 years. So these are the types of things that most people have a difficult time. And there's an opportunity that everybody has right now. We're going to talk about housing in just a minute, but I want to talk about one thing that people should consider, and all that equity in homes can really help people. I'm going to go fast here, but let's just take a crazy hypothetical situation. Let's say there's someone out there, and if you're a real estate agent too, you can help so many people by helping them understand the difference here. So let's just say your client has a 3.5% mortgage on their home. They bought it in 2016 for $500,000 with a 20% down loan of $400,000. So no PMI. And now that home's gone up in value as it normally has, and the loan amount through normal amortization has gone down. So instead of 400, they owe 377. The home was 500, today it's 636. And let's just get crazy. I know the rate's close to 3% today, but let's just say the rate today is 5%, just to get absolutely crazy here. Why in the world would somebody refinance that, you might say, right? They might say, well, your payment's going to go up if you went from 3.5 to 5%. You're not even going to save any money on mortgage insurance. And let's just get crazy and say the closing costs are $4,000. So why would somebody spend $252 a month more and pay $4,000 for the privilege? Why? Because of the debts that they have. The debt levels in the United States are higher than they've ever been in our history. And if you were to just take some interesting things, you could say, well, let's assume a car loan. Average car loan in the United States is $32,000. So let's just say they've got a Chevy for $29,000 and they've got $20,000 in credit cards. We're taking some middle of the road numbers here. They did a little damage at Best Buy and Macy's, and they've got another payment. Maybe it's alimony, maybe it's child support, whatever. Now, this is a typical client profile. Well, if we take a look at it and you say, okay, you owe $377, your closing costs are $4,000. Let's build it all into one loan of $381. It'll cost you $252 a month more. So why would you do it? Why? Because your loan to value, when you first purchased the home, you put 20% down, which was an 80 loan to value, no mortgage insurance. But now, because of appreciation and amortization, your loan to value is now 59%, which means that you could pull some cash out of here. And you could pull up to 75% of the value of your home, which means this white space here could be used. That's $99,500. So what if we paid off some of those debts? What if we took some of this money, clicked on the Chevy to pay it off, increase the loan amount? What would it do to the payment? Let's click on it. Whoa, now I could save you some money. That seems pretty good. Well, if that felt good, what if I did it with the Visa? What about the MasterCard, the Discover, the Best Buy, the Macy's? Holy cow, now I could save you $1,248 a month. Now I can click on alimony all I want. That sucker's not going to be able to be refinanced away, okay? But I could still save $1,248 a month. Now, I'm not saying the customer is going to do this, but they certainly are more engaged and they're wondering, wow, that seems like it could potentially work. And if you're listening, and even if you're thinking about this for yourself, watch what happens now, because the real magic's about to begin. So when we take a look at this, and we say, okay, $1,248 a month, you still have some equity you could use. You have $44,000. What can we do with it? Well, this tool that Point Mortgage has is smart enough to be able to know where they're located and what people are doing. So for example, in the case of, let's just say this was in Las Vegas, it knows what people are doing in Las Vegas. It knows that people in Las Vegas are not finishing basements. It knows that the number one item is renovating their bathroom. So the customer says, yeah, I do want to renovate my bathroom. Don't like the tile. Don't like the fact that there's only one sink. We fight over it every day. It's going to cost about $15,000. I don't have it. Well, yes, you do. We could pull it right out of here. So if we increase this loan amount by $15,000 from 437 to 452, that means we're going to save a little less money because we're increasing the loan amount. So if I do that, now I'm saving you $1,167 a month. That's still pretty good. But here's the thing. If people are going to take that $1,167 a month, what are they going to do with that money? Probably going to blow it. Okay. That's what people tend to do. However, before we went into this, customer was so happy with their payments. They had a great low rate. And why don't we just leave it all alone? Keep the same payment you're making now. Let's either voluntarily or maybe build it into the new mortgage and apply this $1,167 a month, free money that we just found, build it into the new mortgage. What would the result be? So apply towards the mortgage, which means we take their existing loan, all the debts, roll it into a new mortgage, and we'll pay it off in 14 years and 11 months. What's the difference? You're going to change from 27 years and 2 months left to 14 years and 11 months left. That saves you 12 years and 3 months worth of payments. Expressed another way, instead of having 326 payments left, you have 179 payments left. You're going to save making that $3,000 a month payment 147 times. You're going to wake up the first of the month 147 times and say, wow, I don't have a payment to make. That's the best retirement plan in the world. But you know what? You don't have to wait 14 years and 11 months. After just 5 years, if we don't do anything, leave it the way it is, keep your 3.5% rate that you're happy with, that you love, guaranteed 5 years from now, you'll amortize $45,500. But if you do this strategy that the Point Mortgage Professional will show you as your advisor, guaranteed, you will amortize $116,000. Doesn't matter what the Dow does, doesn't matter what the S&P does, doesn't matter what the bond market does. You will gain, guaranteed, and tax-free $71,000. You'd have to earn an extra $100,000. Where are you going to get that free money from? Where? And by the way, what's changed? Your payment is exactly the same. So this is what we could do for people every day. Now, how about after 10 years, $165,000? How about after 14 years and 11 months when this loan is paid off? It's $289,000. Can any of you use an extra $289,000 out there? Are you all happy with the amount you have for retirement? Are you worried about getting your kids through college? Your customers are thinking the same thing. Why not change their life? And again, what has changed? Their payment is exactly the payment they have right now. Oh yeah, one thing's changed. They got a nice new bathroom, and that bathroom for $15,000 means the home's worth more. Now, by the way, that was going for, do you remember we went from 3.5% to 5% with no mortgage insurance? What if we saved that customer 0.75%? Well, in that case, we'd save them $375,000. We'd pay their mortgage off in 12 years from now. We all know how fast 12 years goes, man. Could you imagine not having a mortgage 12 years from now instead of 26 years and 10 months from now? Life-changing stuff that we could do. And these are the types of things we could do for our customers every day. Let me tell you God's honest, true story. So my landscaper, love the guy, Gary Federico, wonderful person, top landscaper in Monmouth County, New Jersey. The guy makes a lot of money, over $500,000 a year, but he got himself in trouble, got Lyme disease, and his business kind of shut down. So many people right now are experiencing the similar thing because of COVID. Their businesses have kind of slowed down. They've gotten themselves in more debt, and they're struggling right now. But as they come back, they want to be able to climb out. Well, you can help them. So Gary was working outside, and it was a hot day. I asked him to come on in and have a drink with, something cold to drink, soda or something like that. Gary was down. I could tell. He's usually a pretty happy guy, but he was like not himself. I said, "What's wrong, brother?" He goes, "Well, I just can't get out of debt. Can't believe it since the Lyme disease. I make a lot of money, but my debts are just overwhelming. I just had to get into so much debt to get by, and I'm fighting with my wife every day. And his wife, Michelle, is upset about this as well." And I said, well, let's go into this tool, Point Mortgage tool that they have, and let's take a look at your debts. So this is God's honest truth. This is exactly what I did. I put in his debts, and these are his debts. You know what his debts were? $27,788 a month. He was making $600,000 a year almost, and the guy wasn't making ends meet because he was so overwhelmed with debt. But like everybody else out there, he had equity in his home. I said, Gary, why don't we take this and do exactly what I just showed you by building it into his loan? You know what we saved him? Saved him $26,111 a month. But wait a second. See, here's where your Point Mortgage Professional because they don't just do loans. They're not salespeople. These people are professionals. They're debt managers. So let me just show you the brilliance of what they do. I told Gary that $26,000 feels good. But here's the thing. You and Michelle have been sad. You've been unhappy. Here's what I want you to do. Let's take some of that savings, $10,000 a month, and I want you to blow it. I want you to go have a good time with that money. You've been unhappy. Go have a ball. Buy Michelle nice stuff. This is when you can go out to dinners more easily and things like that. Go to a show. Go to dinner. Go on vacation. Go blow $10,000 a month. Gary couldn't believe it. I said, but wait a second. The other $16,000 a month of the $26,000 savings, I'm going to build that into the new mortgage for you. Now, I don't do loans. I have to refer this out. And we built this amount as an accelerated payment into the new mortgage. So I said, Gary, you're going to go be super happy, but we're going to put this in your new mortgage. And you know when Gary's mortgage is paid off? 2 years and 2 months. Do you know how much more equity Gary will have? $465,000. Gary's going to be completely debt-free in less than 2 years from now. No debt, no credit cards, no mortgage, no nothing. Do you know that Gary, who's over 50 years old, broke down and was literally in tears crying on my kitchen table? His wife was on the phone, Michelle. Michelle was crying because we finally were able to help them. For me, the best part of it was when their son Michael came to my home the next day, and he drove to my house and he said, Mr. Habib, I just want to thank you for changing my family's life. Now, that meant a lot to me. See, here's the thing, folks. When we set goals for ourselves, and you all should, a lot of the goals that we set are achievement goals, success-driven goals, and they should be. We all want to be successful. But what I'd like to tell you, though, is that success of achievement alone can be kind of empty. We all heard stories about how many people they have it all, and yet they're not happy, or they do these horrible things to themselves because they're sad. It's because of a lack of fulfillment. Now, how do we gain fulfillment? It's doing things for others. It's feeling good because the work that you're doing, you all know how it feels when you hand the keys over to somebody in that new home that was the home of their dreams that you made come true for them. I mean, it feels better than the money, right? It feels better because it gives you fulfillment. Things like this that we could do every day to touch our customers' lives, that's what makes it worthwhile for us. That's what keeps you going. This is what it's all about. So we take a look at this and we say, wow, we can really change people's lives every day if we just understand things that our competitors don't. How much more value are we to them? You know, today I want to talk about housing, if that's okay with you. I want to talk about that people are waiting a little bit longer to get married today. They're waiting almost at age 30. Age 30. And why is that important? Because the next step after getting married is having babies. Now listen, it's been said that with this lockdown and COVID, couples are going to go through one of two things. Either they're going to decide that they really can't stand each other and they're going to wind up splitting up. So wait a second here. That means that you're going to have people splitting up. You need two households. That's going to put a lot of pressure on the housing market. Or they're going to say, hey, we really like each other, and they're going to get a little busy and start to have some babies. It just so happens to be when you look at Google Trends, by the way, I'd always recommend looking at Google Trends if you want to stay ahead of stuff. If you pull up baby registry, you will see it is at its highest level in the history of Google Trends right now. Coincidence with lockdown? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure. However, why is it important to look at births? Because it is the number one driver of home ownership. If you're between age 30 and 39, you're a millennial. And yes, millennials are 39 years old right now. Yes, millennials, you guys are catching up. So when we take a look at that, if you're a millennial, age 30 to 39, and you have no kids, the home ownership rate is 38%. You have just one kid, it goes to 80%. Just think about that. Think about that, okay? Now, you don't have to have 6 kids in a minivan because more than one child, the home ownership rate goes to 82. So it's that first child. So if you're in real estate, please think about this because I want to show you something. It's going to get even more difficult to find a home because of inventory. Okay, so when you think about it, we've got to be really smart in whom we're marketing to, because if you look at housing starts, they've been going up, 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 up. COVID, down again. It'll be down from 2 years ago. It'll be almost just a little bit higher than it was. But for the next 3 years, housing starts will be down. They should be climbing. So we take a look at the normal level. We're going to be way below the normal level. And what I'm trying to explain here for you folks is that inventory is going to remain extraordinarily tight. And this is an important thing for us. So where are people moving to? Where are they moving to? They're getting out of the urban and into the exurbs. What's an exurb? So you've got urban, then you got suburb, then you got exurb. It's the next ring. This is the hottest ring right now. Remember, these numbers are pre-COVID. What have we learned from COVID? People want more space and people want more distance. They're two different things. Space means interior space. I'm tired of this tiny little place. I've been cooped up in it. I need bigger space, but I also want more distance from people. I don't want to be going down the hallway and seeing people in my face. I want my distance and I want my space, and the exurbs are where it's at. Please consider that in your market. Every single market has exurbs. It's the ring besides. So you've got, again, urban, suburban, exurban. The exurbs are hot, hot, hot. Now, what is driving this? It is younger people. Do you know that the fastest growing homeownership rate is under 25? You heard me right, under 25. The next hottest is under 30, 25 to 30, and then 30 to 34. This is driving the housing market. So what does that mean for you if you're a real estate agent? By the way, everything you're listening, whether you're in mortgage or real estate, please do not just consume data or consume information. What your job is as you're listening to this, if you say, oh, that's of interest, don't just take it. Take notes, listen to this again, work with your team at Point. And what I want you to do is you teach it. The way you really learn is by teaching. We learn by teaching. We don't learn by learning. We learn by teaching. Trust me on this. There's a big difference. The more you start talking about it, and then I want you to go on social media and do it. But if you want to do social media, please understand that are different mediums. So some of you say, oh yeah, I'm all over social media. I'm on Facebook every other day. No. Do you think that these people look at Facebook? Ask anybody who is 25 years old or 29 years old or 32 years old. They don't even use Facebook hardly. You know where they all are? Instagram. You want to attack the hottest segment of the housing market? You better use Instagram. And if you don't know how to do it, don't get intimidated. When a child's born, doctor slaps them on the rear end. You think they know how to post something on Instagram? These are all learned behaviors. Learn it. Work with somebody who'll teach it to you. Go online and do a tutorial. It'll take you 15 freaking minutes and you'll be an Instagram expert. It's not that tough. But if you never try, you'll never learn. Put the 15, 20 minutes in, try it out, test it out, and then you'll attack the hottest market going. But you have to know where they're looking. Now, it's not only that they're the hottest market, it's your hottest repeat business. Because look at these people, 53% of them move every year, 22% of them move every year. If you're going to go to the Facebook crowd, only 9% of them move or 5% of them move every year. Okay. Now listen, if you're big on reverse mortgages or retirement communities, those folks don't even know what Instagram is. Okay. So of course, just know your market. But if your market, if you want to attack the younger end of the segment, you got to be on Instagram. Now, people talk about a housing bubble. I mean, really, are you ridiculous if you're talking about a housing bubble? I mean, come on. You need to have inventory for a housing bubble. This is a housing bubble in '07. This is why I was warning about a housing bubble. I got so much hate mail on CNBC because I was warning people about a housing bubble, but I was looking at inventory levels. And today, lowest inventory we've ever had in 40 years, and our population's 40 is greater than it was 40 years ago. So please, team, there's no housing bubble. If anything, inventory is tight. Now, what about jobs? Jobs really depend on where you are. There is a correlation, and there are areas of higher risk jobs. Now, what are the highest risk jobs? Entertainment, arts, food. Listen, I can tell you firsthand. I've got a show in Vegas, Chris Angel's Mind Freak. He plays at Planet Hollywood. I also have a show on Broadway, Rock of Ages, 27th longest running show in Broadway history. We're sucking wind on both of them, okay? It's difficult. So I don't know if Rock of Ages is going to come back. We're going to try our best to reopen Chris Angel, but I don't know what it's going to look like. So I can understand why when Las Vegas is the riskiest area in the United States because 35% of the job market is high risk jobs. I get that. But you know what else is at high risk? Orlando. Why? Well, Disney. They just said early July, we'll allow you to open Disney, but like 25% capacity. That's not going to cut it. And it's not just people in Disney with jobs. It's all the tourists that provide jobs for the hotels, that provide jobs for the restaurants, that provide jobs for the shopping. It's very highly dependent. What are the best areas or least high-risk jobs? Tech, government. These are areas that are going to be better. So find your area along the map here, and you can see where your percentage of high-risk jobs are. Now, there's high-risk jobs, and then there's low-risk jobs. a market can have both, right? So Las Vegas, a lot of high-risk jobs. Orlando, a lot of high-risk jobs, but they have some low-risk jobs too. They have about 11% of their jobs are low risk. What's low risk? Information tech, utilities, military, government. This is the low risk market. The best performing areas, DC, Sacramento, Tucson, San Diego, the most insulated from COVID. These are the areas that will continue to outperform. Doesn't mean that the other markets can't perform, but these markets will outperform because of it. Now, what about overall? Are we in a recession? You bet you we're in a recession. Yeah, we're in a recession. So what does that mean? That means housing will probably do well. People will tell you, recession, housing will do bad. No, look at history. Gray areas recession. Home prices go up and up afterwards. Up, 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 up. And then they went crazy. And then we had the housing bubble right here in 2007. Housing went down and that led us into the recession. It was not the recession that caused housing prices to drop. You know what caused housing prices to drop? Here's a mortgage for you. Nothing down, no job, no income, no asset verification, 580 FICO, fog up a mirror, you're approved, okay? So if you've got a pulse, you've got a loan. That was stupid. So the result is we had a housing crash. But home prices have done nothing but go up for the last 8.5 years, and we have been all over. We call the exact bottom of the housing market. You could pull it up on CNBC. I called it. They laughed at me. They laughed at me December 11th, 2011. You could pull it up. The housing market has done nothing but go up since then. When you take a look at where it's heading, it will continue to do that. Team, look at this. Positive equity. Remember when we had negative equity at 25%? It's 2% now, negative equity. No mortgage debt, 34%. People have loans. Let's take a look at the housing overview. It's 124 million households, 43 million are rented, 80 million are owned. 34% of those owned are free and clear, as I said, and the 53 million households that have a mortgage, the average loan to value is 53. The average equity is 177%. If you're a realtor, you should be drooling right now because that means there's a lot of room for a move-up buyer. The appreciation for 2020 and beyond, well, 2020 is going to be a little bit flat, but that's okay because of COVID. But 2021, you're going to see over 5 to 6% appreciation. Same in 2022. Guys, this is the buying opportunity that you've been waiting for. This is the time to buy a home right now because people will make money. What's the fair value of housing? Well, how about the price to rent ratio? Price to rent ratio right now is 17. So what's that mean? So let's say somebody's renting for $1,000 a month. There's 12 months in the year. So that's $12,000 a year in rent times 17. That's $194,000 value. So that means if you take a look at a home that's renting for $1,000 a month, that home will probably sell for between $190,000 and $200,000. That's your price to rent ratio. History, it's been around 16 for the past 40 years. When we had housing problems, it was at 24. We're nowhere near that. It's a great housing market. How about price to replacement? 1.59. When we were in trouble, it was 1.94. Team, we're in a great housing market right now. And look at vacancies. The last housing bubble, vacancies were so high. Right now, homes have no vacancies, all good factors. Now, I want to show you another thing. I'm going to bring it up here for you in just a second. I want to show you another chart because I think it's worth talking about. Let's bring this up. And let's talk about the next wave of people that are coming at you. So very important to look at demographics. If you don't follow demographics, I think you may be missing the boat. So demographics will tell us the future like nothing else. So if you want to take a look at the median age of a first-time home buyer, according to Zillow today, I don't know if you know this, you want to take a guess internally, go ahead, think about it, take a quick guess at what you think it is. It's 33 years old. So 33 years old means you were born between 1986 and 1987. That's where a 33-year-old would be born today, between 1986 and 1987. And as we take a look at this and we say, okay, between 86 and 87, you're born here, look at what happened in 88, 89, 90, 91, 92. What do you see happening here? It looks like a staircase. Birth rates going up, 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 up. Well, birth rates are going up. That means every year from now on for the next 6 years, more and more 33-year-olds or more and more first-time home buyers coming to the market. That's going to put tremendous demand on the housing market. So what does this tell us? This tells us that we are going to be in for greater demand going forward when inventory is tight. What will that do to pricing? It's going to push prices higher. This is a great time to buy. Now, for a point of reference, let's have some fun. Remember the housing bubble in 2006? So that means a 33-year-old in 2006, when were they born? If you want to do the math in your head, see if you can come up with it. The answer is 1973. 1973, that's right here. So 1973, when we take a look at that marketplace and you say, okay, look at the birth rates in 1973. Why did birth rates plummet so much? You notice how the birth rates dropped right here so much? Why? Anybody want to take a guess? Tell me why the birth rates dropped in 1973 so much. They dropped because in January of 1973, the Supreme Court ruled that abortions were legal, Roe v. Wade. And when you see that, it caused birth rates to drop, and then they stayed low, and then they started coming back up. Well, 33 years later, after Roe v. Wade, because of less births here, you had less demand, and you have yourself a housing bubble. Want to see? Check this out. When you take a look at 33 years after 1973, it's 2006. The blue lines are households being formed. This is the drop because of abortions becoming legal 33 years earlier. And notice how it stays down and then it comes up. Now, builders, they paid no mind to that. Builders didn't look at demographics. So what were builders doing? The gold bars are builders putting homes up. Now here was close, but builders putting up homes like maniacs, not understanding that the birth rates had dropped 33 years before, and you have yourself a housing bubble. What's the situation today? Not enough inventory. Why? Because households are being formed at a greater rate than builders are putting them up. And we know from the chart I showed you before that builders are putting up less homes. Now, what's going to happen to this blue line? Well, once again, let's look at the birth rates. By the way, notice the pattern in blue. Drop, flat, up. Look at the birth rates. Drop, flat, up. It can't be any other way because these people are born. They're coming. Okay, you're not going to reverse the clock. We know this is happening. That's up to today. This is what's coming. So that blue line, it's going to continue to go up when builders aren't putting up enough homes. What is the first thing we learned in economics? When there's more demand than there is supply, prices tend to rise. So team, these are things that you need to be looking at. You need to be working with your customers in order for you to be able to put yourself in that position of being that advisor. So I'll stop sharing the screen and I'll take some questions that you might have and we can go on from there.
Thank you, Barry. That's a ton of great information to absorb, and your strategies and perspective is amazing. So thank you for sharing. Very powerful.
You just blessed all those agents out there watching this with a ton of information to help them make more money. So hopefully everybody's out there paying attention. That was great. Thank you.
My pleasure. Are there any questions that we want to take a look at?
Guys, go ahead and throw questions in the chat. Those start coming through. Mind blown. I think you just blew everybody's mind away. They're speechless.
Barry, I know you talked earlier, obviously there's a lot of data you threw out there and unemployment, what have you, but as we start to slowly recover, what are some other key metrics or indicators we should be looking at?
So we believe that the market will come back at a reasonable level, but it's still going to be an uphill climb. And one of the things that I think that people are a bit giddy about is the stock market. I just say, please be careful because there is precedent for this. We have rallied off the bottom. So if you look at the stock market, the metric you want to look at is the S&P 500. It reached the peak of 3393. That was February 19th. And then in late March, we reached a bottom of 2292 on the S&P 500. Since then, it has rallied back to over 3,000. That's a gain of 32%. If you're looking at this and you're saying, wow, 32% run up, is the worst over? Well, there's precedent for that. We've seen an almost eerily similar situation after the Great Depression, where you had a big drop, then a recovery where everybody thought everything was great, and then the big drop came after that. In 2002, after the tech bubble, big crash, run up again, oh, everything's okay. And then the big drop came. 2008, big crash, big run up again, oh, the worst is over. And that's when the big drop came. The initial shock was not the big drop. What I'm saying is, I don't know if history repeats itself. As Mark Twain said, it doesn't always repeat itself, but it tends to rhyme. If we just are students of history, it gives us reason to be a bit cautious here. Because when you think about it, at some point in time, profits need to matter, earnings need to matter. And the stock market is very pricey. We're where the stock market was in October. Does anybody out there believe that the economy is in the same place it was in October? In October, we had a 3.5% rate of unemployment. It's not 3.5% now. Earnings were much stronger in October. Some companies are not going to make anything close to that as far as earnings go. Most companies will. You saw the statistics. So I'm not trying to scare you. I'm just trying to give you a word of caution that I believe that we should just be wise and don't look at what the media is saying, or don't look at what a few people who make their money by trying to push stocks on you to say, everything's great. I would be a little bit more cautious is all I'm going to say. Please look at the historical data and you tell me if it appears to be very similar. To me, it's eerily similar. It looks like it's almost a replay. We've seen this movie before, and the outcome was what there is a big drop to come. Maybe not, but I'm just saying, here's the difference. If you waited a year on each of those situations, and after it started to come back, you waited a year to make sure for sure it was coming back, the change in your overall return was 2%, but you saved getting your head chopped off. I'm saying, to me, for me personally, I'd rather risk 2% than getting my head chopped off. It seems like a pretty good deal for me.
Thank you. And Barry, I know you're well connected with Washington, D.C. Do you see any imminent announcements from the FHFA? Anything that you've heard that might be on the horizon?
No, I think they've done pretty much what they were going to do. HUD, who has FHA, VA, and USDA, they figured it out with pass-through account. So the FHFA with Mark Calabria, they didn't do that. I was texting with Calabria over the weekend. He said it's a 50-50 chance in June we'll stop initiating a forbearance, which is a good thing. The FHFA did say that servicers, that's who you make your payment to. They don't hold the mortgage, but people think they do. No, the mortgage is sold. We hold the mortgages, you and me, everybody listening here. If you look at your 401ks, your IRAs, your insurance policies, mutual funds, there's mortgage bonds in there. So we hold this stuff, okay, collectively. So we have to get paid that. The servicer actually has to front the money even if they don't collect it from the borrower. So that was putting undue duress on them for Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac loans, which is part of FHFA and Mark Calabria's group. So that was limited to the first 4 months. And then they got an extra $500 to help them. And now what we're seeing here is that at least 40% of those are being paid by the consumer because they realize that it is detrimental to them. So customers are paying them. And unfortunately, when they came out with this, the government with the CARES Act, the 9 most dangerous words, according to Ronald Reagan, I'm from the government, I'm here to help. The CARES Act said you don't have to prove hardship. So 70% of people in forbearance didn't need it. It was really designed for people who lost their jobs, but 70% of people in forbearance, they could have afforded to make the monthly payment. So they just gamed the system. And now they're finding out that there's negative credit implications. So they're making their payments on the mortgages. So it is a manageable situation. So I don't think you're going to see anything out of Washington that comes out of this here. I think we're going to wait and see all the debt that we're getting ourselves into, $25 trillion in debt. So, you know what $1 trillion is, right? $1 trillion, just $1 trillion. Like, I'm not talking 25 trillion. I'm not talking, the 6 trillion that we've spent just in the past 2 months, 6 trillion in 2 months, $1 trillion. Imagine if I said to you, go spend $1 million a day. It'd be hard for you to probably spend $1 million a day, right? Even for some of us good spenders out there. But take $1 million. You know how long it would take you to spend $1 million a day to get to $1 trillion? 2,700 years. You'd have to go to 700 BC and start spending. 700 BC. Spend $1 million a day, and you'd finally spend $1 trillion today. Well, we just spent $26 trillion in 2 months. So there's a lot of debt that we're in. And that debt is going to be a drag on our economy for our kids, for our grandkids, for their kids and their grandkids. So that's going to slow growth in the United States. So asset classes to look at, maybe look at things like gold, because the pressure on central banks should be it's part of my portfolio. People say it should be part of every portfolio. That's up to you. But gold is a good place to be. Precious metals, if you think that this debt is a large number and it could be troublesome, then gold is a good place to be. So these are things that I would be considering. So you asked about Washington, D.C. I just tell you what Washington is doing and what we can do to kind of protect ourselves a little bit.
Perfect. I know we're running up against the clock, so a couple final takeaways. What in the mortgage industry, what changes or impacts do you see coming, on the other side of this?
So I think it's going to be a little bit harder to do closing cost mortgages because servicers got beat up. So I think that premiums above par will be a little bit more difficult. I think that prepay penalties will be more stringent. I think that even 0-point loans will probably be, when I started in the mortgage business, it was in the 1980s. I know I'm dating myself, but it was common for people to pay 3 points on a mortgage. So when you look at today, it's very common to pay 0 points. I think it'll be more common to pay a point on a mortgage in the future. Rates are going to be really, really low for a long time.
Perfect.
So that being said, with rates being low for a long time, where do you see us do you see us bottoming out this year? Like going into the ones at all?
I don't know if we get to the ones, but I do think that we will be under 3%. Whether it happens sometime this year, which is possible. We'd already be under 3%, but we're seeing some layers that are on top of it because there's additional risk because of unemployment rates being elevated. So it adds risk to repayment. And then the forbearance thing is adding a little premium to rates. So as those things dissipate and rates naturally gravitate lower, which they will, you'll probably see rates come under 3% for many of us here. I don't know in the ones, but under 3 sounds reasonable to me.
Awesome. One of the
Somebody's
questions.
asking a question. I'm sorry. I just said define exurbs. I'm sorry. I just wanted to answer that. So you got your urban, then you move far outside of urban, you get into a suburb. You move farther out of suburban, you get to an exurb, and then you get to rural.
And Barry, some folks were asking about the non-agency market. Any thoughts on
Yeah,
that?
so jumbo will come back. It'll be a little bit stricter, but it'll come back. That really is a reflection of the unemployment rate. That's just repayment risk. So as the unemployment rate starts to come down, and it has, remember, you're going to see the number next Friday. A week from today, the government's going to say 20%. We are not at 20%. They model that from the middle of May. Since the middle of May to now, the unemployment rate has come down from over 19% to its current rate of about 15%. So don't be alarmed. Next Friday, you are getting the inside scoop here. When the government says 20%, remember that's as of mid-May. I'm telling you as of early June, it's less than 15%, and it will continue to decline slowly, but eventually we'll probably get under 10%, and then I think we'll have a tough time getting back, 7, 8% will probably be where it plateaus.
Perfect. Barry, we don't want to take your whole day because Scott and I would sit here all day and just listen to you. We really appreciate you taking the time. From everybody at Coldwell Banker, all the realtors across really the world that are going to watch this, I'm sure everybody's very grateful. I know we are. And at Point Mortgage, we really look forward to talking again on Wednesday. I don't know about you, Scott, but everyone seems pretty fired up about that.
Yeah, we're excited to use all the tools and all the information that Barry's, shared, and we're going to pass along to our clients. So I know our loan officers are very excited, and again, we can't wait to share it. So,
well, you guys are on the top of your game, and I think that everybody watching this, if you're in the real estate industry, working with you guys is a blessing. So, listen, Peter and Scott and Amy and everybody who's watching there, just God bless you guys. Please hope that you're safe and you and your families are shielded from this awful virus. I hope that we do wind up getting some good testing, a good therapeutic, and hope to God a good vaccine. There's a lot of good discussion with ultraviolet lighting that has been proven to really be effective. We talk to the Cleveland Clinic every day here, so there's reason for optimism, although it will take some time. But things will get better slowly. And now, like every chaotic situation, should be viewed as an opportunity. What are your opportunities now? Make sure you go on social media, because you have a captive audience. Literally, never in period of mankind have more people been available for you to reach at no cost like the social media tools that you can use today. So take information that people need, short, 1 minute, 2 minute. You'll be able to build and build and build your audience. Use engagement posts. What's an engagement post? Put a post out there. Hey, what was the first car you bought? Year, make, and model of the first car you bought. And people will engage with that. Put a question up there. That's a mathematical question. These are engagement posts every single day. When you find out whose birthday it is, which you can do on Facebook, okay? And then you can engage with people. When somebody comments on your post, comment back. You build engagement. Look, I'm good friends with Randy Zuckerberg and Donna Zuckerberg. Those are Mark Zuckerberg's sisters. Randy wrote the foreword for my book, Money in the Streets. Donna was one of the editors on my book, and they shared with me some really great secrets. It's this engagement that I'm teaching you right now about, which opens up the spigot. What do I mean by that? So let's say you have 3,000 friends, but notice it's always the same 30 people that comment on it. It's because Facebook doesn't open it up because you don't have engagement with others. The more engagement you get, the more they open up the spigot to a broader audience of your contacts. So if you want to have a powerful voice, use engagement posts. Do that first, build that, do the birthday thing I'm telling you. And then when you make a post, everybody gets it. Do Facebook Lives. And what you want to do is short, powerful stuff. Take the stuff you learned from us today. Take short bits of that. You probably have 8 different segments you could do for 1 or 2 minutes like that. You can come up with it. And there's a tool that we have called Social Studio that Point Mortgage has that they will be able to share with you and show you how to create these videos instantly, simply. Script's already there. It's like the easiest thing in the world. And you will discover the unbelievable power in your hands in social media. So that's the real opportunity that's out there for today. The opportunity is for you in here. Okay, listen, when I always loved athletics, right? I always did. I was very, very competitive, and I was actually pretty good in high school. I was kind of a really good athlete in high school, and it was competitive. But as I got into the collegiate level and above, it was harder because people just kind of got better than I did, and I wasn't able to kind of advance much beyond that. And it wasn't for lack of trying. I tried really hard. First one to practice, last one out of practice. I studied. I did everything you could, but I just didn't have the God-given talent. People were either faster or stronger or jumped higher, whatever it was, than I was, no matter how hard I worked. But that's the unbelievable opportunity you have, because sales is fair. It doesn't matter if somebody's faster, can bench press more than you. It doesn't matter if they run faster than you. Your success depends on one thing and one thing only. And that's right here, heart. How bad do you want it? How bad do you want to help people? How bad do you want to be successful? How bad do you want to change the life of your significant other? How bad do you want to make a life for your kids that's memorable, that's successful? How bad do you want it? Tap into that every day, because the market is a huge tailwind. Interest rates have never been like they are. The housing market's never been hotter. The equity in people's homes have never been greater. You have every opportunity. There is no excuse but to be very successful. Help people along the way. Treat every customer like they're your child, your parent, your best friend, and never think about the money. Tell them all the bad stuff that you could think of. Advise them as if you were warning your parent or your child. Advise them. Don't sell them. And you will make more money than you've ever dreamed of, in a way that gives you more fulfillment than you've ever imagined. Thank you, guys. God bless you all. Thank you very, very much, man.
Thank you, man. Have a good day.
Well
Talk to you next week.
Thank you, guys.
Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.